Okay, over to you, Katerina.
Thank you so much. Let me just start my presentation. Share my screen real quick.
That's great. We can see it perfect.
Hi. All right. Hello, everyone. Warm greetings from Japan. Thank you for joining a virtual info session of International College of Liberal Arts, or iCLA for short, at Yamanashi Gakuin University. My name is Ekaterina. I'm a study abroad coordinator at iCLA, and I'm really happy to meet students of York University and introduce our college and its exchange program. So York University and iCLA have an exchange agreement, which means that York students can apply to study at our college for 1 semester or 2 semesters. I'm here today to provide more details on academics, accommodation, and student life at iCLA. Let's start with the location. iCLA is located in the city of Kofu, Yamanashi Prefecture. Yamanashi is most famous for being the home of Mount Fuji, but it has got a lot more to offer. We'll talk about that in a minute. Kofu City is a capital of Yamanashi, so it has got everything you need, including shopping, good restaurants, local events, and others. In addition, Yamanashi is a neighbor to Tokyo. It only takes 90 minutes to central Shinjuku by train. Kofu is a perfect place to enjoy quiet study environment surrounded by nature, with an easy access to hustle and bustle of the world's biggest metropolis. There is also a direct bus from 2 international airports, Narita and Haneda, straight to Kofu with a stop near campus, which is very convenient for international students. Mount Fuji is just an hour and a half drive away from us. As you can see on this picture, there are other mountains in front of it, but on a clear day, you can see Mount Fuji from campus. Let me introduce a bit more about our university and its structure. iCLA is one of the 6 undergraduate colleges of Yamanashi Gakuin University. The university was founded in 1946, and the student body totals about 4,000 people. The university is known for achievements in college sport, most of all, and so far has produced over 70 Olympians, including gold medalists in Tokyo Olympics 2 years back. Thanks to its legacy, iCLA students have an opportunity to take karate and judo class from world and national champions. iCLA is a relatively young college established in 2015, and it is our university's first degree offered entirely in English. iCLA has a fairly small student-to-faculty ratio and a very diverse student body representing 55 nationalities as of fall 23. On this slide, you can see other recent statistics as well. For example, 74% of our students are international. Over 60% of our full-time faculty are from overseas. 88% of the full-time faculty are educated overseas, and all our administrative staff have international experience and speak both English and Japanese. At iCLA, all courses are taught in English, with an exception of some Japanese language courses. You can learn a variety of academic disciplines from global business and economics, political science, Japan studies, sociology and psychology, quantitative reasoning and natural sciences, data science, health and physical education, and interdisciplinary arts. Interdisciplinary arts include courses in arts, language arts, performing arts, and music. Exchange students can study Japanese language as well, starting from any level, even complete beginner, all the way to the advanced level. Besides lecture courses worth 3 Japanese credits, you can also take 1 credit experiential workshops that offer unique opportunities to gain hands-on experience in a range of cultural, practical, and creative areas of study. Among others, students can learn traditional Japanese tea ceremony and flower arrangement, as well as the Japanese martial arts of Aikido, Judo, Karate, and others. We also have a unique workshop called Fuji Culture, which explores cultural and historical aspects of Mount Fuji through field trips. In addition to the courses and workshops, there are many other things to do and see in Yamanashi. First of all, it is a home of the Fuji Mountain and Fuji Five Lakes. You might have heard of Kawaguchi Lake, for example. Another famous natural spot here is Shosenkyo Gorge. It is listed among top 5 favorite beauty sceneries of Japan. Yamanashi Prefecture is also widely known within Japan for having the largest area of vineyards and the largest amount of grape and wine production in the country. Numerous wineries have tours and tasting, and grape, peach, and other fruit orchards offer fruit picking. Hot springs, onsen, are also abundant. Just one station away from the campus, there is a lovely town of Isaba Onsen with a lot of accommodation and day hot springs options. One of the grandest historical events, Shingenko Festival, is held every year in the city of Kofu, where you can see a parade of samurai in traditional armor that is said to be the largest samurai parade in the world. The options for exploring are numerous. However, we understand that sometimes it could be challenging for international students to navigate themselves and learn in detail about local cultures and have interactions with local people. In order to enrich students' experience of living and studying in Japan, we offer something called iExperience program. iExperience program is a series of experiential learning opportunities outside the classroom. They are mostly field trips to local Yamanashi sites coupled with guidance, a workshop, or a lecture by iCLA professors or local professionals. Each semester we have 2-3 trips like this. This is a relatively new initiative. We have just started in 2022. However, next spring, we started it for exchange students exclusively. However, next spring we plan to open it for all iCLA students, creating even more opportunities for interaction between international and Japanese students. One of students' favorite iExperience events is a trip to a local temple associated with Takeda Shingen, one of the most powerful warlords in the history of Japan, where participants receive a guided tour, a sutra writing practice with our Japan Studies professor, and a tea ceremony lesson by a tea master. On another trip, we tried waterfall meditation training, as you can see on the picture on the upper right. Last year's programs included visits to Shosenkyo Gorge for either a cooking masterclass or poetry workshop. And last semester, among others, we arranged a visit to a local high school drum club. This time around, our students will take part in the Shingenko Historical Festival. At the end of October, they will parade Kofu streets wearing samurai armor. Student life at iCLA is very vibrant. There's a number of events and activities throughout the year at iCLA and Yamanashi Gakuin University. First of all, we have two big university-wide events with stage performances, food stalls, and even fireworks. At iCLA, we hold end of semester galas where members of iCLA community showcase their talents in music and arts. Another regular iCLA event is a Diversity Day, where students introduce their countries and cultures. Our Language Acquisition Center is also actively holding events such as flower arrangement event and traditional sweets workshops. Both of these events last semester were open to all the students, including exchange students. There are also occasional student-led events like Halloween night and club-led events like movie nights. Let me move on and tell you more about iCLA building. Designed by the 2013 Pritzker Award-winning architect, Toyo Ito, iCLA building is recognized in the list of selected buildings of National Universities of Japan by Education Ministry for its integrated, flexible, and open design of learning and living spaces. It is a modern architecture with a bit of Japanese taste, and the transparent walls of the classrooms and faculty offices spark curiosity and encourage interactions with community members. On the next slide, I wanted to show you more photos of iCLA building. This in the upper right, in the upper left is one of the lounges outside classroom. Upper right is the study area. We also have a picture of iCLA cafeteria here. And finally, on the bottom right is a library of the Language Acquisition Center. Moving on to the accommodation. Exchange students are normally assigned to iCLA's residence halls. They're these green and orange buildings on the background photo. As you may have noticed, residence halls have a direct access to the iCLA main building. Japanese and international students from all over the world reside together and build global friendships here. iCLA's residence hall is a private room accommodation, as you can see on the little scheme right here. There are 8 single rooms in a unit that share facilities such as showers and a common lounge. There are 3 units like this on each floor. Meal plan is provided during the semester, so you can focus on studying with no need to worry about finding time to grocery shop and cook on class days. But if you do need to cook, our cafeteria comes with a fully equipped kitchen. And finally, a couple of quick facts about student exchange. iCLA offers 1 semester and a full year academic programs. Our spring semester starts in April and concludes in early August. The fall semester is from September to late December. The approximate costs on this slide cover room, utilities, meal plan, cleaning fee, and student insurance. As you can see, we have a price range on the slide. The lower price does not include any rental items. The higher one includes all the things you can apply to rent, such as bedding, electrical kettle, mini fridge, rice cooker, and many, many others. If you would like to look into more detail, iCLA fact sheet and exchange website will provide more information on requirements, application procedures and deadlines, courses, and semester dates. You can read these QR codes or search iCLA Exchange in the browser. Thank you so much for your attention. Once again, this is a QR code for our website for prospective exchange students. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to talk about iCLA more, but on the slide you have our email address where you can address your inquiries in the future. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you, Katerina. So before we jump into questions for Katerina, especially about iCLA, I'm just going to flip quickly and share my screen so we can give you a little bit of the information required from York University's perspective. So give me one quick second here. Give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen. Hope this works. You can see my screen? Yeah, awesome. Okay. So sorry, the subtitles aren't currently working. So if you need subtitles on, you can turn them on via Zoom in the bottom. Are you eligible to participate? So in order to be eligible, and I was looking at some of the questions in the chat and some of the students who were sharing with us what they're studying and their level of study. So we'll go a little bit about eligibility requirements at York University. So you can be an undergraduate or a graduate student, but I would say less graduate students go abroad to study and more graduate students go abroad for research. You need to be in good academic standing. And Ekaterina, can you let us know what is the GPA requirement for iCLA?
Yes, absolutely. Our cumulative GPA requirement is at least 2.5 on 4.0 scale or equivalent.
Perfect. So we use a 9-point scale here at York University. And so for folks, that's a 5.5 GPA. So you need to have a 5.5 GPA at the time of application, and you also need to be registered in full-time studies here at York. If there's any first-year students or on the call, we're happy to have you here. But at the time of application, you need to have completed 18 York University credits so that we can confirm you have a solid academic foundation before going abroad, and so that we can actually assess what your GPA is. As I mentioned to Michelle in the chat, there are some programs that are restricted to certain disciplines, and some of our academic faculties at York have their own programs. So Michelle Schulich is one of those. And I don't believe iCLA is partnered with our Schulich School of Business, but there's other Japanese partners that we have, Michelle, that could be suitable for you. So don't worry about it. There's other partners in Japan. You should really chat with Tina. If there's any law students, Osgood students, or students from Glendon, you should also be reaching out to folks at your faculty international offices, but we're happy to connect you with them. If you want to go and study in Japanese, let's say you're highly advanced in Japanese, and some of our students are. I don't know, Ekaterina, if you know, but we have a Japanese language program here at York University. So if you want to do courses in Japanese, I'm assuming they can do that, Ekaterina. They just need to pass the language requirement test in order to be able to do that. Of course, there's Japanese language courses that could be available. And of course, as Ekaterina mentioned, there are courses available at iCLA in English as well.
If I could just add one thing, we do have Japanese courses. For you to be placed in a certain level, you just need to complete a placement test, and then you will be placed in a certain level of the Japanese class. However, we do not offer other courses in Japanese. So our program is in English.
Amazing. So that's good for folks to know. So if you want to do Japanese language learning, you can go and do that at multiple levels. You just need to do the placement test and get into the level that corresponds with your language ability. And then all other courses, content courses, as we actually often call them, are offered in English. So that opens up a lot of opportunities for students to go abroad through the exchange. The other note that I have for eligibility is that both domestic and international students at York are eligible to apply for our programs. Ekaterina mentioned a little bit about cost, and costs really depend on the program and location. So your tuition fees will be paid at York University. The program fee is what Ekaterina mentioned, and that is actually the housing, meals, maybe some extracurricular activities, rental of bedding and whatnot. So you have to pay those fees as well. And of course, you're responsible for any ground transportation, flights, vaccinations, visa permits, all of those sorts of things. We have a mandatory insurance plan through GuardMe that all students need to purchase. And of course, miscellaneous costs. So how do you want to live in Japan? So if you want to go out to high-ranking sushi restaurants, for example, every single night, then that's going to cost you a certain amount of money. If you want to do that one time during your time at iCLA, just to have a certain experience, cultural experience, and then the rest of the time you eat in your student dormitory, or maybe you cook a little bit or go out to street stalls or student cafes, it will be a certain type of cost. So miscellaneous costs are really dependent upon you as a student and how you want to spend your time in Japan. It also includes travel. So if you want to see all of Japan in the 1 semester or 2 semesters that you're there, that's going to cost you something. And if you just want to stay local and maybe visit another city or two, that will cost you something a little bit less. Funding and scholarships. So we have funding and scholarships available at York International for students who are going abroad. The most popular of that is our York International Mobility Award. It's essentially guaranteed for anyone who has been selected for a program. So you do not have to apply for it. It is automatic if you go on the exchange. If you are an OSAP recipient, you are eligible to receive OSAP. There are often faculty grants and scholarships that are available. And we do have endowed awards that are sometimes country specific or specific to who you are as a student. And so there is the Japanese, and I'll get this for you folks and send it to you. There's the Japanese Foundation here in Toronto that often has some funding to help students go abroad as well. Not every year, but it's worth looking into. So how do you apply? So you typically apply in your second year to go abroad. We mentioned you need to have a 5.5 GPA, 18 credits. It's important that you speak to your academic advisor here at York. So you want to understand, what have I completed in my program at York? What do I have left to complete? And of what I have left to complete in my program, what can I take abroad and what do I absolutely need to take here at York University? So any of your lower level elective courses are usually the easiest, so 1,000, 2,000 level courses, but really speak with your academic advisor. If you have to do stats 4001 or something like that, you're probably going to have to take that one here at York because it has very specific learning outcomes and it can be tricky to find a course credit equivalency at a partner institution. You will have to make sure you're building relationships with your TAs or professors, because part of the application is to have a reference from one of them. We need an academic reference that we pass on to our partner institution. And make sure you're researching your host institution. So you're here today to learn about iCLA. Perhaps you want to learn about another country somewhere else that you can go on an exchange, or another partner in Japan, and that's totally fine. Once I stop sharing my screen, I'll share with you our calendar, because we have almost 30 of our partner institutions who are offering very similar sessions to the one today. When you apply, you're going to list a first, second, and third choice of universities, because there's 15, 16 students on the call, and we won't be able to send you all to iCLA, but we will be able to find you all a partner institution to go on exchange. Make sure you know the language of instruction. So Ekaterina just went through that. The courses, the credit system, the academic culture. Make sure you understand where it is that you're going to be going. So what is the cost of living? Look at some resources online and get a sense from a student perspective about those costs. And budget. Make sure that you're thinking about, how are you going to fund your exchange program? So for students who want to go abroad next academic year, so this is fall 2024 or winter 2025, which our semesters are a little bit different, as Ekaterina mentioned. They're not the exact same. You have to apply to us by January 23rd, 2024. If you're only interested in going abroad in the winter semester 2025, our application deadline is on June the 1st. All students traveling abroad at York University are required to attend a safety abroad session. We really put this in place to hammer it home during COVID. COVID is definitely still out there, but you know, there's things that happen around the world. There could be an earthquake, there could be civil unrest. And so you register with our travel registry so that we can get in touch with you and know how to respond in an emergency. There is an online application, and I'm going to drop it in the chat once we finish here sharing my screen. You're going to have to put in some of your personal information, your academic information, where it is that you want to go. Upload a statement of interest. We want to understand from you, why are you choosing iCLA? So again, make sure you're doing your research so that we can really make sure that it is the best fit for you. You may have to do a language assessment form. So if you want to do courses in Japanese, you're going to have to do the language assessment form from a York University professor saying that you have in fact studied here in Japanese. And you'll need a reference, an academic reference. So what's the timeline look like? You're thinking, oh my God, we're already thinking about next fall and we're already thinking about next winter. It is quite a long process for our students, but the good thing is that you're engaged early. So you have lots of time to do your research, lots of time to think about it and to complete your application. So you submit on January 23rd, 2024. We'll do our application review here. Make sure you're getting your passport updated. Don't wait until the last minute. You can even go and do that today. Well, maybe not today, but tomorrow because it's late here in Toronto. If you're selected, and like I said, we have spots available for exchange students, so don't worry about getting selected. The process is not necessarily competitive. It's finding the right match for you. We will nominate you to your host institution, so that will be to Ekaterina and her team. And then Ekaterina and the team at iCLA will then be in touch with you regarding their application. And so don't get worried. It's not necessarily an application so much as it is filling in more paperwork and making sure that you have the equivalent of a student ID, student number, all of those things at iCLA. Then, of course, you have to do a course assessment form here at York, and this is to look at the courses that you want to take at iCLA and what are they going to transfer back to York University for course credit equivalency. And then the host university will send you an offer letter, let you know about how to register in courses, any visa information, housing, and many of our partner institutions, of course, are doing what we do for our incoming exchange students is a really nice welcome and orientation once you arrive on the ground. I'm going to put these in the chat in a second. So you're in a session this afternoon, which is great, this evening. We also have drop-in advising hours at 200 York Lanes in York International, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 1 to 3:30 p.m. So you can come and speak with one of the global learning coordinators. Again, make sure you're doing research, know your degree requirement, and you may have to be a little bit flexible with your options. So find a program that works with you, chat with our global learning team, start an application, know your deadlines, and please come to one of our global chats if you want to do this. If we have students from Japan this year studying at York University, they're going to host a global chat, very informal sit-down kind of session so that you can get to learn about Japan, where they're from, why they're at York, their exchange experience. So if you can take that QR code, please feel free to join us. So I'm going to stop there and open the floor to questions. Let me stop sharing my screen, and then while we're answering questions, I will drop some of the links in the chat. So Alia is asking, is the cost for tuition all the same in every university? Yes. So your cost of tuition actually depends on how many courses you take. You can enroll in 9 credits, 9 York University credits, or you can enroll up to 15 York University credits. And it's the same. You pay your tuition to York University the same way you were if you were taking courses here on campus. And Marco, yes. Yeah, we can get you the slides, no problem. This recording will also be available, so you'll have access to this as well. If you apply to the funding, what does it cover exactly? Great question. So the funding is a travel award, and it's based on where it is that you're going. So I believe the York International Mobility Award right now, if you're going to Japan, you would get up to $1,500 to offset the cost of your flight. Any other questions, or more importantly, for Ekaterina? about iCLA in Japan? Feel free to unmute yourself, drop it in the chat.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hi, so in the chat, you mentioned that as a PhD student, the exchange program might not be the best fit. So I was wondering, what exactly do you suggest?
Yeah, taking courses at the PhD level at another institution is rare. Most often, PhD students are going abroad and doing research with institutions, researchers at other institutions. So really, it's up to the PhD student to find out where they can go and if there is a faculty host. I don't know, Ekaterina, if you welcome in PhD students for research.
Thank you for your question. iCLA is an undergraduate college and we offer undergraduate level courses. So yes, unfortunately, our exchange programs as a rule are open for undergraduate level students.
Thank you. So Fatima, you may want to check out, I'm just going to drop in the chat here, and sorry, I have multiple screens, so I'm looking around. There is funding through an organization called MyTax. So, and we send lots of PhD students abroad through MyTax every year. So have a spin through that. There might be something that interests you. And if there is, just email me at alarcy@yorku.ca and I can connect you with the person who's responsible for MyTax, okay? And we have another question. I'm currently in my second to last year of my program. Do you think I should save an exchange for grad school? Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really depends on what you have completed already in your program and what you have left to complete. So Nikisha, I believe if I'm not saying your name correctly, please feel free to correct me. If you only have like required courses left in your program, that can be very, very difficult to transfer back to York University or any institution really. If you have some optional courses, elective courses, those sorts of things, those can be easier to transfer back. So with that being said, it doesn't mean you don't get to go abroad. Part of what we do in global learning at York University is to find a program that meets your needs. So it may be one of our other types of programs that we offer. It could be one of our faculty-led programs where students go abroad for 7 to 10 days with a faculty member from York University and take a York University course. You can go abroad in summer and do a language learning course. Lots of students are interested in doing that. You can do a global internship program if you're interested, especially as you're an upper level student. So don't focus in only on the exchange and say, oh, I'm upper year, I might going to be able to go abroad. You may not be able to go abroad for an exchange, but going abroad for another type of program could be a better fit for you. And it's a better bang for your buck, if I'm allowed to use that expression, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do right now is just to drop into the chat our York International calendar so that you can see all of the other types of sessions that we have ongoing. And Ekaterina, do you folks have a summer school at iCLA?
At the moment, we do not offer summer schools.
No problem. So some partners in Japan do. They're less common these days. Lots of our partner institutions are still kind of restarting after COVID, you know, and these programs take a little bit of time to build. So if we learn of other programs, we will have lots of summer schools, believe me. Some of our partners in Europe are already starting to release their information. So if that's something that's of interest to you, let us know. Look at the information sessions that are being planned. And our website, and you'll find some information on those coming up as well. I hope that answered your question. Do you think taking an extra year would be better than to try to apply for spring semester? Yeah, Nikisha, that's really up to you if you want to take an extra year. I mean, again, look at students in the, you're welcome, Fatima. I would say, what's the cost benefit analysis? If you're going to delay your program by an entire year, you're delaying your ability to be out into the workforce, you know, making money and whatnot. But a lot of students at York do. They take an extra year and they go abroad. So it is worth it. I would suggest coming in and speaking with one of the global learning coordinators to understand more what's best for your program and your needs. Great. So Considering that iCLA doesn't offer any courses in Japanese, what is the language barrier like on campus in the surrounding areas? So, Ekaterina, you want to jump in? Because I believe there's a misunderstanding here. Chris, go ahead.
I don't think there is a misunderstanding. Actually, Chris, that's a great point to consider before choosing a study abroad option. Japan in general is not an English-speaking country, even though iCLA is very English-focused and overall, YGU students are also largely international and have international experience. In Japan, as a rule, people do not speak English that well. So language barrier is something to consider. However, iCLA provides volunteer translation interpretation services. Some of our students sign up as volunteers to help those who do not speak Japanese to make calls, purchase, do the payments of the bills, figure out what's in the mail if it's completely in Japanese. So yeah, that's one of the points to consider. I hope this answers the question.
And so, Chris, you can do Japanese language learning courses. So if you want to do a beginner's level course, intermediate, I believe advanced as well. Katerina, is that right?
Yes, absolutely right. From absolute zero.
Absolute zero to maybe almost expert, but not quite.
Yes.
And Chris, immersing yourself in another culture, especially where that culture is not speaking English fluently, is an amazing way to learn a language because you really kind of have no other choice but to dive in and really force yourself to speak that language. So it could be a very cool experience.
If I may just add, I mentioned that Japanese people do not speak English that well overall if we look at the whole country statistics. However, a lot of written signs, a lot of written materials will be in English. Train stations, airports, shops, a lot of announcements are in English. So if you are considering how difficult it will be to navigate yourself in Japan, that is not really a problem for people who don't speak Japanese at all. What I meant by language barrier is this communication with the Japanese people who largely do not speak English and reading something that's in your mail, for example.
And so, Ekaterina, I have a question for you. I'm going to assume that you're not Japanese based on your name. And by the way you're presenting on camera, can maybe you just tell your own story? How did you end up in Japan working for iCLA?
Right, you are absolutely correct. I am not Japanese, I am Russian. I got higher education in Russia. That's where I learned Japanese. So I graduated with a certain level of Japanese language and then had some work experience back in Russia. That work was connected with Japan, with student exchanges, cultural exchanges, and this is how I eventually found a job in Japan.
That's so amazing. See what a language learning can do for your career. Can really open up lots and lots of doors. How long have you been living in Japan?
It's my 7th year in Japan.
Wow, that's so impressive.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ekaterina or myself about the process at York or anything else you want to know from almost like a foreigner in Japan? So exactly kind of how you would be, maybe with a little less Japanese going in, but any questions you have about that transition? What was it like? What were the first moments in Japan? How did she settle in? It'd be cool. We have one in the chat. How quickly did you find your Japanese getting better after moving there?
So I had a certain level already. I had N1. If you're familiar with the system of the most standard Japanese language proficiency exam, that is the highest level, and it's actually a requirement for a lot of foreigners to find a job in Japan. So I had that before the move. However, even after the move, it took me a lot of time to notice positive changes because it's one thing to learn outside of Japan and completely another to be immersed and use it on a daily basis to discuss daily routine with co-workers, to answer phone, to write every single email in Japanese. And I'm not going to lie, but I think it took me over a year to even notice positive changes and to notice that I am getting accustomed to working in Japanese completely.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I think language learning sometimes is so personal, right? And again, that immersion, at least when I was learning different languages, it's like when you first get into a country and you're immersed, there's a lot of language learning that happens because you need to be able to do simple things. And then you feel like you may plateau. And after a little bit of time, you feel, oh, there goes another surge because you've grasped another concept of the language or another basic set of understandings. And then you start to learn more. So I think, Chris, it would still be so advantageous for you to be in Japan and just to have that experience. And again, the cultural experience of being in a different country far exceeds, learning Japanese here versus learning Japanese in Japan. Any other questions from the group? Do you think N1 is a minimum requirement?
It depends on the job. If the job includes using Japanese every day and communicating with your coworkers and answering the phone and writing emails and correspondence, then it is. Well, at least it was for me. I was required to provide the certificate. There are other jobs, no doubt, that might only require N2, but to my mind, N2 is the minimum.
And for the exchange, Travis, you really don't need to know any Japanese because courses are offered in English. And then again, if you want to get a little bit of Japanese language learning, you can have that absolute zero start and have a Japanese language course. Does that help? Perfect. Anything else? Anybody has a burning question for Katerina? Feel free to unmute yourself as well. It's nice to read in the chat. It's also nice to hear your voices. Okay. I don't see anything else coming in. I don't see anyone's hand up. So I want to take this time to thank you, Katerina, for taking time out of your day to be with us here. Great turnout, lots of interest, I think, in iCLA for sure for students. So I am expecting to see our application numbers shoot up this year just as a result of you being here. So this is really wonderful. And thank you for taking the time again to be with us. For anyone online, still, thank you also for joining. I put some links in the chat, so make sure you open those up before you sign off today. I'll stay on that just at the end so you have a chance to click through and bookmark them so that you have the information that you need over the coming weeks to kind of do some research. Remember, our application deadline is on January the 23rd. And you can't just sign up on the 22nd and complete your application in a day. There is some paperwork that needs to get done. So I would say give yourself a month to 6 weeks to really get everything done properly. And so with that, I'm going to stop our recording and make sure that it